What a headshot! What a head!
How's it, guys? This is Dayvy, FPL, and welcome back to the Fantasy Premier League video here on my channel. And on this video, I'm going to take you guys through my team selection for the upcoming double game week 31. So it might be a little bit of a smaller double, only 2 teams, but will we bring in those Everton and those Burnley assets? We'll just wait and see when I talk about my transfers a little bit later on into this video. I will not be going over a blank game week 30 review. You guys can go check that out in the transfer plan I released last week. Just because it has been an international break, that information might not be as relevant. And as I said, did go over it with quite a lot of depth in my transfer plan. So this video will be strictly double game week 31. So if that's something you guys are interested in, sit back, relax, and let's get straight into it. So firstly, before we go over my team selection, the actual team and transfers, I want to give you guys a little bit of an update on my chip strategy, as well as the game week schedule from now to the end of the season. What graphic are we going to use? You've probably guessed it after seeing the name on screen. It's going to be Mikkel Tokvam's diagram. We have been using his graphics throughout my prior videos for a couple of weeks now, but he really does create good graphics over on his Twitter page, as well as his Patreon, the transfer algorithm, so make sure you guys go check him out. But in terms of the game week schedule from now to the end of the season, you guys can see that small double coming up in game week 31. We then have a nice double and blank game week in game week 33. Game week 34 and 35 have the potential to be double game weeks. We can see that Burnley have a potential double. We also have Aston Villa. Chelsea in game week 35 could even have a double. So just keep that in mind when you do plan those transfer moves. But game week 36 is going to be the game week that we're going to be focusing on, and that's because I currently am planning to use my last remaining chip, my last free hit in game week 36, just to take advantage out of that massive double game week. So game week 37 will also be a double, but that's going to be a slightly smaller one, and the teams in that are projected to double don't look that strong. The nice thing about that free hit in game week 36 is that if we see our team's relatively strong for that game week, we can always use it in game week 37 if we feel that's going to be a better game week to free hit, or in game week 33 when it does come about. Maybe there have been some changes in certain players getting injured, or maybe we just really favor the fixtures in double game week 33. We can always just use the free hit in that game week. Game week 38 will obviously be a kind of consistent game week because it is the last game week of the season, and therefore everyone only has a single game week, but there are some fixtures that will still be incorporated, maybe in game week 32, 34, or 35. But as always, I will update you guys as soon as we do get news about these confirmed fixtures, which hopefully will be quite soon as we do plan our transfers. But now going on to our game week 31 team selection, I'm first going to go over my team and show you guys what I'm kind of working with before we do talk about our transfers, just to give you guys a bit of context. So let's start off with the bench as we always do, but luckily this game week we actually do have some talking points, especially to do with Ramsdale. So the Arsenal manager Arteta came out today and said that Ramsdale has not trained since the start of the international break, and therefore he is a major doubt for this upcoming Monday fixture against Crystal Palace. So kind of taking that news, absorbing the information, my current prediction is that Ramsdale will not feature on Monday, just because if he hasn't even been training, even if he does train tomorrow and Sunday, I think Leno is perfectly capable of being between the sticks. I probably will start Ramsdale though in my starting 11, just because if he does feature, I do favour the fixture compared to my first team goalkeeper that you guys will see shortly. We then have Digne and Kilman who are playing each other. Aston Villa travelling to Wolves on the weekend, so this game's quite hard to call. I don't really know who's more likely to get a clean sheet here, Luca Digne or Kilman. We don't even know if Kilman's actually going to start in that fixture. It's going to be quite interesting to see how the Ruben Neves injury affects Wolves. Are they going to be more defensive, more attacking? How's that formation going to kind of shift around? That'll be quite interesting to see what happens on the weekend. Quite hard to call between these two. I think is going to get the clean sheet, going to get the points. So currently Luca Digne is edging it slightly over Kilman just because of his attacking threat. And then finally, Raul Jimenez with the red card going to miss this fixture against Aston Villa, and that's why he'll be rooted third on my bench. Now going on to our starting 11, we do have Forster from Southampton in goal. Has a fixture against Leeds away, which I'm not too keen on as I am a Rafinha owner, and I actually do think that Leeds will score in this one. So I'm kind of hoping that Forster racks up some save points, but unfortunately over the past couple of game weeks hasn't really been producing the saves. So that's why I will be starting Ramsdale over Forster and just hoping that Ramsdale does feature, but honestly I'm expecting to play the Southampton goalkeeper this week. The rest of our defense is also a little bit concerning. Not really that concerned with Doherty against Newcastle at home. I think Spurs should keep a clean sheet in this one, and maybe some attacking threat can come from Doherty, as over the past couple of game weeks since we brought him in, hasn't really been that attacking. So he's against Aston Villa away. I'm just simply playing him because I do think he'll feature over someone like a Kilman, but comparing him to Luca Digne is quite close, and I might actually just play Luca Digne because of his attacking threat. We then move on to Trent Alexander-Arnold, who today we had massive news about. In the morning came out that he was actually in full training. There was kind of an exclusive for one of the newspapers saying that Trent will be featuring against Watford on the weekend, but then some more reliable sources came out and said that he's not in full training. He just has been in individual training and his rehabilitation still on track. So one side's kind of saying that he's going to be featuring, the other side saying that he'll only be back for Man City. It's kind of a Rafinha situation, literally again. But luckily with Trent, he has the first fixture. Liverpool take on Watford in the first game of Game Week 31. So hopefully we do get some more injury news before that. Moving on to our midfield department, we currently do have 5 fit players. So the midfield is not letting us down in that department. We've got Saka against Crystal Palace. Great fixture there. Hazard managed to recover from testing positive over the international break with England. And Arteta said that he should be fine for Crystal Palace on Monday. Rafinha against Southampton, he also has been cleared after testing positive in game week 30, and I actually do really favour Rafinha in this fixture against Southampton at home, and I do think Leeds will look to rebound after these past couple game weeks. We then have a double up of the Spurs midfield with Son and Kulusevski against Newcastle at home. Great fixture on paper, but I do think Newcastle have improved from a defensive point of view under Eddie Howe, and therefore I'm a little bit concerned about not owning a Kane because he has been a little bit more clinical. But Son, Kulusevski should do the job. Hope that both of them do start and get us some points. We then move on to Mo Salah, who will be playing Watford at home. A great fixture on paper, probably the best fixture from an attacking point of view in Game Week 31, and that's why he will definitely be my captain. Now, there has been some concern about Mo Salah potentially being rested after a pretty hectic Liverpool schedule coming up, but I do think that he will start against Watford. I think that Liverpool will look to keep the pressure on Man City in the Prem for the Prem title. And then in terms of rotation, Mane also played the same amount of minutes as Salah. We have Jota who played both games for Portugal. Luis Diaz played both games for Colombia. So all kind of these players had minutes over the international break. And they're not really too worried about Mo Salah, who did return to the Liverpool training ground yesterday afternoon. Then moving on to our forward department, Lacazette against Crystal Palace. Don't have too much hope for our forward department. Lacazette hasn't been exactly on top form in terms of the scoring department. Has been getting occasional assists, but I do need him to get the ball in the back of the net. Against Crystal Palace, don't really know if that's going to happen. Same goes for kind of Broja against Leeds. This is a great fixture on paper, but I do have my concerns about Broja in terms of rotation. And the reason I'm saying that is that in terms of Southampton, they can't get relegated. They can't get kind of in the European football places. So I do think they're kind of on the beach and might be one of the first teams to actually be on the beach officially in the Prem. And that's why I do worry about Broja's place, because what's happening with Broja, he's on loan from Chelsea. So at the end of this season, does depart Southampton, goes back to the Chelsea team. And that's why I think Adam Armstrong might be getting a few minutes. Because logically, who would you guys play? Would you play a player that's going to be departing at the end of the season? Or would you play an option that you've transferred in on a long-term transfer? And therefore you want to try and get him some confidence for a starting position. So that's what I think is going to happen. I think Broja might be a rotation risk, even though he's actually been playing pretty well for Southampton. I just think because there's no points to kind of gain or lose, I think that they might look for other secured options. So in terms of our starting 11, if every player was fit, like a Trent, a Ramsdale, the team would actually look pretty respectable. But unfortunately, with those injury concerns, I might have to make a few transfers. Currently, as you guys can see on screen, I've got 2 transfers and 1.2 in the bank. So let's go see how I'm going to spend them. So I'm going to be going over some transfer options, and I'm going to be going over them on an individual basis, but I won't be doing all 3 transfers, as I'll talk about before each one gets introduced. So in terms of one free transfer that I'm really looking to do, this is probably going to happen almost definitely. It's going to be taking out one of Saiss or Kilman and bringing in another option. So the reason for that transfer is that I don't really trust the Wolves defense anymore. We have some rotation. I think Saiss and Kilman will be rotated on a regular basis now that Willy Bolly's back in the starting 11. And in terms of their fixture in Game Week 33, they do blank. So it just kind of makes sense to transfer one of these options out. Preferably, I would like to take out Kilman over Saiss. He is cheaper, but I do think that Saiss is more nailed in that Wolves starting 11. So in terms of replacements, remember only one free transfer here, not 2 free transfers, but the 2 options I'm looking at are one of Reece James or João Cancelo. So if both of these 2 players were to play 90 minutes in every single game week, I would definitely choose Reece James. But I just think, as we spoke about with the wildcard draft, go check that video out if you guys want some context there. I do think Chelsea will have heavy rotation, especially in the defensive department. So yes, although he has Brentford at home, Southampton away, and then Arsenal at home, I do think the probability of Reece James starting all 3 of them is not too great, especially because he's just come back from injury. So I don't think that Tuchel's going to throw him into the deep end anytime soon. I think he's going to save him for those Real Madrid games in the Champions League, and therefore he might get rotated in the Prem. But then we move on to Cancelo, who with Man City also have a very tight schedule, very tough schedule coming up with all the competitions that they are in, and therefore there's even been some rumors of him potentially being benched this weekend against Burnley away. I do think, however, that Cancelo is the most nailed player in that Man City lineup. If he's not on the pitch, Man City look worse, and therefore I think he should be nailed at least for most Prem fixtures. Cancelo also has a nice fixture in Game Week 33 against Brighton at home, and I do think there is potential for clean sheets in all 3 of these, even against Liverpool at home. So out of these 2, I think that Reece James is the more exciting pick, but I think Cancelo is the more reliable one, and therefore I'm leaning slightly for the Man City option. But in terms of this upgrade, I need some value still. Even though I have 1.2 in the bank, I need some more cash to upgrade, and therefore let's talk about 2 potential downgrades. So the first downgrade I'm going to talk about is going to be yet another kind of reliable option, a little bit of a no-brainer we spoke about in the transfer plan. It's going to be Raul Jimenez out, and the reason for that is that not only does he blank in game week 33, but he's also suspended because of the red card. So in terms of the downgrade, this will be Raul Jimenez out for Weghorst from Burnley. Look at those fixtures there. He has a double game week in 31, double game week 33. So the Dutchman has a load of fixtures, but unfortunately not a load of form. So this is going to be purely kind of a fixture transfer if I do go for it. Yes, I do need the money, so actually this transfer will help me in the long run, but I do think that Weghorst could be an option, especially with those doubles coming up. So in game week 31, the Man City at home fixture, that's not a double game week. The Everton at home fixture is the only game week in there. Let's just hope that Weghorst doesn't get a red card or yellow card, which will take his 2 points away from Man City. He then has a nice double coming up in 33 against West Ham away and Southampton at home. And the fact of the matter is that Burnley have to start winning games if they are to stay in the Prem. So that's what I'm saying. We're kind of trading an option with no fixtures based in the next 3 for Weghorst, who has 5. And surely that transfer is going to pay off in the long run. But now another transfer that we could potentially do that has opened up for us over the news that's come out over the previous days, and that's that Trent Alexander-Arnold might not be back for the Watford game. So if Trent's not back for game week 31, he has Man City up next and then a single game week in 33, so he might actually be an option that we could take out. Now, it might be a little bit ironic that I'm saying this in terms of his fixtures. Yes, his fixtures are quite tough, but the option I potentially downgrade him for is going to be Robertson. So that's why I was kind of talking about that. I can't really complain about the fixtures because I'm bringing in the exact same fixtures with his colleague Robertson, but I think that Watford home game has the potential for a massive haul from one of the fullbacks. So yes, he has Man City away, but as I said with Cancelo, I think that Liverpool could also keep a clean sheet in that one, maybe in boring 0-0 as both teams don't really want to lose. Then as United at home, which isn't the worst fixture in the world, but then the fixtures after that look pretty decent for Liverpool. So yes, I could actually go for Reece James if I don't bring him in for one of Saiss or Kilman, as that would give me even more money to spend, but I still do want a Liverpool defender, and I think that Robertson's pretty nailed for the next few. The only thing I don't like about this is that kind of like for like, I do think that Trent is better than Robertson. I think if you're going to have one of them, you have to have the other if you want to make it kind of worthwhile. And therefore, dropping Trent for Robbo might be a little bit of a sideways move. But let me know what you guys think about the transfer plan down below. Do you think Cancelo is better than James? Do you think Weghorst or Robertson? Who would you guys be bringing in for the long term? So finally, I just want to give you guys a final team selection depending on which kind of transfer plan I do go for. This first one's going to be if I do keep Trent and then I bring in Cancelo for Kilman and then also Weghorst for Raul Jimenez. So what I would do is I would just kind of play Trent. I think Klopp gives us a press conference tomorrow, so hopefully we get some more news on that. But I just hope that he kind of starts, but otherwise Luca Digne would just come off my bench in his place. I then would bench Saiss and also play Cancelo obviously after him coming in, and Weghorst would come straight in the lineup for Broja. So only thing I don't like about this is that if Broja does start against Leeds, I do think he'll score or at least get some attacking returns, and therefore Broja might even have a chance of outscoring Weghorst just because his ceiling is so low. But this transfer does make more sense for the future, some double gaming players you bring in, and I do want some Man City coverage as I think they'll have a very good end to this season. Then go on to our next transfer plan. What would potentially happen there is Cancelo would come in, Robertson would come in, and then Trent and Kilman would be on the way out, and then obviously Robbo and Cancelo will start the game. I then would move Saiss to the bench and I would still be playing Broja, so if he does do well against Leeds, at least I still do have him covered. But in terms of the transfer plan, I think I slightly prefer the original plan of taking Weghorst in and Cancelo in for Kilman and Raul Jimenez, as I do think we take out more dead wood in that team. But I do think if Robertson bangs against Watford and Trent doesn't play, I'll be regretting not bringing the Scottish fullback in. But overall, currently I'm leaning towards the first plan of Weghorst and Cancelo in, but I do think the second option could be one I go for, but then I would be without Trent for the foreseeable future. But this is basically wrap up the video, guys. Hopefully you did enjoy it. Please don't forget to like if you did and subscribe if you haven't subscribed yet. I'll be seeing you guys for the deadline stream 1 hour before the deadline. Please remember that, and hopefully I do see you guys there. But I'm signing off. It's been Dayvy FPL, and I'm out. Cheers, bye.